Okay, call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. May I please get a roll call?
Board Member Creech,
Harvey.
I'm sorry. Present.
Board Member Gladney,
Present.
Board Member Schwarkes,
Here.
and Board Member Wilson.
Here?
And I have Board Member Peak that is absent, correct?
Yes.
Oh, and Ms. Rayford.
Yes. Moving on to the hearing of the public. Being none, moving on to approval of the agenda. With the members absent, I make a motion to table the ZBA preface approval.
I'll second.
Excuse me, question?
Sir.
On that approval of the agenda itself, under unfinished business, I don't know if you want to take it now or that. Announced unfinished business, item A, review of adoption of the final preface. When are we supposed to see that?
I'm sorry,
Can you repeat that?
repeat that question?
I said, when are we supposed to see, it says review and adoption of the final preface. When are we supposed to see that?
This is the draft. I made a motion to table it to the next meeting.
The whole thing, I mean, you're one can discuss it at all, is that what we're saying?
Right.
Okay. Okay, I didn't see it. I see it. That's fine.
Any further discussion on the motion? And I had a second?
Yes, I second.
I get a vote on the motion?
Board Chair Wilson,
Yes.
Board Member Schwarkes,
Yes.
Board Member Gladney,
Yes.
Board Member Creech.
Here. Yes.
All right, moving on, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of May 19th, 2022?
A motion to approve the minutes from May 19, 2022.
I second. Any discussion on the motion?
Do we need to approve the agenda with the removal of the item?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I saw that. Second in the roll call and approval of minutes being fourth. That way just a little.
Help me out, Rich.
little
Did I
out of
miss
order.
anything? I removed the ZBA preference, so we still need to have a approval of the agenda? Very well.
I thought that was included in the motion.
Perhaps I didn't word it well. Okay. Is there any problem with me amending my motion to include approval of the agenda and tabling ZBA preface till the next meeting?
That would be fine.
Very well. I amended so.
I'll second your amended motion.
We good?
Board Chair Wilson,
Yes.
Board Member Schwarkes,
Yes.
Board Member Gladney,
Yes.
Board Member Creech.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Is there any discussion of the minutes from the previous draft? Being none, we had a motion and a second. Can I get a vote, please?
Board Member Gladney,
Yes.
Board Chair Wilson,
Yes.
Board Member Creech,
Yes.
Board Member Schwarkes.
Abstaining. I wasn't present for that meeting.
Point of order, even if you're not present, you can still vote yea or nay. You don't have to abstain because you weren't here.
Okay, I'll still abstain. So,
Okay. You don't have to.
thank you.
Okay, moving on. Public hearing, there are no items. Moving on to new business, adoption of the 2023 meeting schedule. Last page, we've got a list of possible meeting dates, application submission, notices, and packet distributions. Is there any discussion on this? Being no discussion, I make a motion that we accept the meeting schedule.
Excuse me.
Sir,
In some relative persona, I guess is the word I'm going to use. When I see this, we are accepting it. But what are we following, bylaws wise, or on the number of meetings we should have, will have, or don't have?
We've had this discussion before.
Yes, we have.
It's basically
But
as needed. If there's no business for us to discuss, there is no need for a meeting, and we do not have one.
I somewhat disagree, but if that's the way it is, really, that's the way it is. But
That's,
to hold, and as I said, I've gone through this too. I don't understand exactly what we're here for. In relationship, in forbearance, exactly, we have discussed this before. But now I'm in the middle of something else coming down through this city, and I don't even know where it's gonna go with it. And then yet we can't even pick it up. It's got zoning board of appeals, application and notice deadline. If we can't have any kind of a meeting per se of this right here, how do we direct any questions that we have to anybody? As to, I found out indirectly, the planning commission, the planning commission took over somewhat of our jurisdiction. All we have right now is appeals to that jurisdiction. And under zoning anymore, the new laws or the rest of the stuff coming up, how does this committee itself per se know exactly what's going on when we have to appeal it? This is where I'm coming from. Shouldn't we meet somewhere along the line so everyone can understand exactly what this committee is about? I know we've had this discussion before too, but I don't know with the new people coming on board if they understand it. Because if you, in relationship, we've had one meeting? Since, I mean, that's all I'm trying to say. I hope the new members that have come on board understand exactly what this board's for. And I thought I did until it come back to pass. And all of a sudden, now, we've got to go through the planning commission. Because they took that much more away from us. I'm just asking what is literally left for this commission to do. I appreciate it. I mean, I know we've had this discussion before. I would like to get it in black and white anymore of exactly what is the format for this commission.
well, bylaws are pending approval and rework, and
I understand.
Prefix?
That's what I was going to ask.
when it's ready, that'll be our next meeting, and it can,
How long have we had the bylaws interpretation going?
council, can you help me out here?
I don't recall the exact length of time that the bylaws have been under review. What I can say, though, is that the zoning board of appeals, it's actually a good thing that it meets as infrequent as it does, because its main function is to hear appeals, essentially variances, and what a variance is essentially a license granted by this body to violate the city's zoning ordinance. So the fact that this body does not meet that often is actually a good thing. It means that everyone is abiding by the city's zoning rules and not seeking permission to essentially deviate from the city's zoning code. But when that opportunity does come up and someone, a resident, wishes to, for instance, maybe build a structure within an established setback, they then need to establish a hardship and come before this body and request that. So that is this board's function. But again, there have been times that I've been seated as city attorney where many months have gone by where this board does not meet. And again, the chair is correct. It meets on an as-needed basis. The reason that this agenda is for the 2023 meeting schedules, this is required for this body to vote on and approve the meeting dates for the upcoming year. So once those are set in stone, those are going to be the meeting dates if someone files or requests a variance. So that's the only reason that this is on the agenda for this evening, to establish those meeting dates so the public knows, okay, if they are interested in filing for a variance, they know what the deadlines are and when they can anticipate being in front of this body to hear their variance request.
I appreciate what you just said. But in the circumstance of some of the circumstances I'm going through in the same thing, about the setbacks and this, that, and the other, I don't understand since the city doesn't even have any. How does this board go ahead and handle that?
Well, what happens, Board Member Creech, is that someone files for a variance that is done here at City Hall, and then City Administration processes that application and puts it on the agenda for an upcoming meeting. And there's an application that an applicant or resident would be required to fill out, and the procedures are set forth in that application, the standards are set forth in that application, so the applicant knows the burden that they have to overcome and persuade a majority of this body to grant them their variance request.
I appreciate that, but this is where I'd like this committee, I'd like to read one thing that I just received back, and then you can really go from there. As I said, this is a letter I just got back from the city. It said, the documents requested in your recent FOIA request do not exist, Mr. Creech. Photo and description of the easements of lot lines, front, back, and side property lines, setback, all properties in Eastpointe who are responsible for maintenance and upkeep, black and white, so homeowners knows who maintains the upkeep utility lines under the power lines. Please note that the necessary research of the record was performed, and it was determined that there's no records exist for this request. The city doesn't even have records for some of this stuff in the variances and the rest of the stuff that we're doing right now for the setbacks. I appreciate it, Rich. I don't care what we got to go through anymore, because I've been fighting this request for quite some time, and I'm still going, and I know about the only thing we'd probably settle is federal court. But I mean, it's your signature on here too. You signed us. But I mean, all I'm trying to say is, how do we do something that we don't even have? I hope you understood me. I don't know if you did or not, but I've asked a simple question. Here we sit in the variance of something that's not even in black and white. And exactly what you do, I'm glad you said setbacks, because that's what it's boiling down to. We don't even have it in black and white, and we sit right here and tell these people. That's just some of the questions I ask. I apologize. I don't mean to but I'm glad I sit on this committee and the rest of the stuff too. But I would like to, that's why I want this committee more or less to meet. Rich, you're right. I understand exactly what you said, and I hope these other people did. But something has to be present for us to work on. And if there's not even any paperwork on some of this stuff, then we have sit on judgment for.
So what are you suggesting?
What am I suggesting?
Yeah.
That either it's time to make a whole lot of changes or do something about it. For the setbacks and the rest of this, partial of this city, as old as it is, hasn't got it. It's not on record. But yet we can stand here as a committee if they come up in front of us and give them a variance. How do you give a person a variance for a setback if it's not even on record? I'm sorry. I'm just asking questions, the same thing about it. I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate. I love this city as much as anybody that sits up here, and I love exactly what I'm working for, and I'm going to keep this one going. But there again, too, I'm not taking it to federal court. I hope the city, somewhere in reality, can do something about this. And I apologize, Cliff. I know we've talked about it before, but you said this is the way it is. It isn't the way it is, Cliff. It's real simple. I've taken it as far as I can take it without taking it to federal court. It's not there. So how do we go ahead and make a variance? That's all I'm asking. I appreciate it. I'm sorry.
Mr. Creech, we do not make policy or ordinances. We simply judge the merit of cases presented to us. It is not on us to make the city write down setbacks, easements, what have you. We merely make a judgment on what is presented to us on a case-by-case basis with what we have and grant them as needed or deny them.
I'm just, excuse me for saying this, I'm going to say we have nothing right now to give them a variance in. We can't, the setbacks, and it's not even established.
I disagree. I mean, granted, in my experience in this board, 90% of what we did was fencing variances, approving and denial. But there were still other things, property lines being redrawn, but properties needing to be bought and sold and split and moved, and people violate ordinances and will seek a variance that way, and we approve, deny that. We are meeting much less now, but that is still our job. It is not our place to make easements or light a fire under the planning commission or the city council to make paperwork. The zoning board of appeals, not the planning commission, not the city council.
Well, I more or less, I guess I've said the same thing about it. If you've got the planning commission and they're making all the statements, and I understand exactly what Mr. Albright has said, that we can give a variance. But how can we give a variance on something that's not even there? I'm just making, if somebody can really make me understand this, I'll quit fighting this battle. But the battle, as far as I'm concerned, is going to be there. How can we make a judgment? I'm sorry, I know exactly what you just got done saying. Does the horse go before the cart, or does the cart go before the horse? I'm sorry, I just wanted to give, I wish the rest of the membership was here so they could hear the same thing, you know, what I had to say. And I feel pretty bad about sitting there and telling one of our residents the same thing about his setback and something like that, when the city can't even make up their mind or get it on paper. And we have to stand there and tell them, no, we can't give you a variance. And Cliff, me and you both, you know exactly what I'm saying, and I know exactly what you're saying. But this is a board, as far as I'm concerned, with certain pressures, that it's going to be tougher and tougher.
Very well. Ms. Walton, help me out. Where was I?
All right, so the next item on the agenda was the approval of the 2023 meeting schedule.
Oh, we've had discussion. Is there any further discussion on approval of the schedule?
You did make a motion, we just need a second.
Yep, I second motion to accept the 2023 zoning board of appeals meeting calendar.
There we go. May I get a vote, please?
Yes. Board Member Wilson?
Yes.
Board Member Gladney?
Yes.
Board Member Creech?
Yes.
Board Member Schwarkes?
Yes.
Moving on to unfinished business. Being none, we will have the second hearing of the public. Being none, we'll move on to board member comments. Stephanie, anything?
Nothing, just nice to see you all after a brief period of not having meetings. I hope you all have a nice holiday season.
Tonya?
I just want to say Happy New Year's and Merry Christmas.
Oh, Merry
I
Christmas.
won't see you guys until 2023.
See you next year.
Yes. So, happy holidays to everyone.
Mr. Creech?
Well, I thank the members of this board. I wish we would be more in response and more active, I think, than what we really are. But I'm finding it harder and harder and harder to make judgment on this board when certain things like this happen. You know, I mean, I understand that we have judgments to make. I hope everybody on this board sits back and looks at the same, especially like some of the things, you know, that I say, but we can only do what we can do, but we're starting to need a little bit more help from the city in order to do it. Thank you.
Very well. We'll see how that works out on the next one. Good meeting, folks. Thank you very much. Wish you happy holidays and a happy new year. Moving on, make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second that motion to adjourn. 7:20.
Board Chair Wilson?
Yes.
Board Member Gladney?
Yes.
Board Member Schwarkes?
Yes.
Board Member Creech?
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming. Meeting is adjourned. Time.
7:20.
She's got it. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, when